Good morning, Donna.
Okay,
Good morning,
bottom
Charles.
73B. I have two dots. That's 1, 2, 3, 10 lines from the bottom. So the Brisa mentioned that one of the groups of people that if they go to do an avera of illicit relations, which is liable by chayve krisos, you are allowed to kill the person before they go and commit the avera. So we're going to now travel to Ksubas for a second. The Gemara there is talking about different young girls that if somebody, I believe, primarily is talking about rape, except for one opinion, but what happens is he has to pay a knas. He has to pay a fine. Now, the problem is that according to what we're saying, he's liable to death penalty. And you can't get the two punishments. That's the general rule. You can't get two punishments. You only get the stricter punishment. So how could the Mishnah over there say that you're going to have to pay if we just learned that you're liable for the death penalty? So that's the question. If we're a minute, it's always a contradiction. We're literally throw two things against each other and try to figure them out. So Veraminu ve'elim naro sheish lein knas, the very beginning of the third parak Ksubas. So one has relations with his sister. So you pay a fine. How could you pay a fine if you're liable for the death penalty because you're considered a rodef, you're a pursuer? So Amru Rabbanan Kamei Rav Chisda, and get a little graphic and technical here, and then a little bit nitty gritty, and then we're done. So they told Rav Chisda, he said the following. So basically, there's going to be three stages of the avera of intimate relations. Obviously, full relations is for sure prohibited. There's going to be a part of just touching, the two areas touch, and then there's going to be a certain level of insertion. The level of insertion is a dispute. What is considered insertion? Is it at the very beginning, or is it a little bit further in? So with that introduction, so now, Kamei Rav Chisda Misha, nothing like starting your Sunday like this, right? So Amru Rabbanan Kamei Rav Chisda Misha is Ha'ara. So says that the Rabbanan said in front of Rav Chisda from the moment that there was a certain level of insertion. So right away he already blemished her, right? He defamed her. So right there, he's now after that point, he's not liable for death penalty anymore. It finished. If delay miktala. However, to pay the knas, he only pays the punishment, the fine, if he removes her virginity fully. And that hasn't happened yet. So we're looking for a discrepancy in time, how you can be obligated both. And we found one. At the very beginning moments, that after that moment, he's already not liable for death anymore. And after that, he's still not liable to pay the money. That's how the Mishnah and our Gemara can be at peace with each other. That it's talking about if it's at the same time, can't get two punishments. But once you have a discrepancy in time, then you could. Fine. So says the Gemara, that's only good if you hold like one of the two opinions about what's considered insertion. The Amar Ha'arazu Nishika literally means kissing. It means that touching. Ela Lemandam Ha'arazu HaChanas Zatara, where it's actually much more of a insertion, at least the beginning of insertion. So Ma'ikal Meimar, both happen over there. That's considered already taking away her virginity, and you get the death penalty for that. So both come together at once, both punishments. So how do you have both punishments at once? Ela Amar Rav Chisda, you're right. It must be a lady, Kigon Sheba Allah Shalokadarka. Someone already had unnatural relations with her. And then v'chazer bala kedarka. So now the guy's not liable for death penalty anymore because she's already blemished, so to speak. He already defamed her, but he's still going to be liable for removing her virginity and therefore he's going to have to pay a knas. So that's answer number 2. Rava Amar, Rava says it's a case where she let the guy have relations with her instead of being killed. And according to Rabbi Yehuda that we saw yesterday, according to Rabbi Yehuda, in the event that you let him have relations with you, then you are not allowed to kill that pursuer. So therefore, he's not liable in death penalty, but he for sure will be liable in paying the fine of raping her. So the fourth opinion, Rav Papa Amar, I'm turning the page or whatever on the next page. B'mefuta v'divrei hakol. It's a case where she got seduced. So meaning seduction is, maybe she didn't want it originally, but at some point she agreed, and therefore, if it's mefuta, so therefore she's still going to have a punishment. According to her papa, even a lady gets seduced the husband still has to pay the man has to pay the fine. However, there's no death penalty here because seduction means she showed willingness. Maybe originally it took a little bit hard to convince her, but then she was willing to do it. If you're willing to do it, then we're not going to let anybody kill the pursuer. Fine. Abai Amar, and I believe we hold like this in general. B'yochel lahatzil be'echad me'varav. V'Rabbi Yochanan ben Sholhi. So this is very interesting. This whole idea of killing a pursuer for whatever he's going to do, killing somebody, or machal Shabbos, according to one opinion, or going to rape someone or sodomize. So, according to this Rabbi Yochanan ben Shol, you're only allowed to do it if there's no other way. But if you can stop the death in another way, like breaking his knees or something like that, so then you have to do that. You have no right to kill the guy. So if a guy's pursuing somebody and you're a sniper, right? So you don't have to shoot him in the head. Him, you could shoot in the knees, and that'll stop the him from pursuing her. So that's the opinion. So too here, this girl, someone's pursuing her. However, you're able to stop the pursuer by knocking out one of his limbs. Therefore, you have no right to kill him. But if he goes and succeeds, he's still liable to pay the fine. This idea that you have to save the person, you have to first knock out one of his limbs before you're allowed to just kill him, that is Rabbi Yochanan ben Shol. Omer rodev shayarodev achar chavero, you have a pursuer going to kill somebody, lehorgo, v'yachol atzilo be'echad me'ivarav, and you're able to save the one being pursued. And what's the word for that in English? The one being pursued.
Pursuee.
The pursuee. He said, if you can save the pursuer from the pursuee, so then you have to do that. Velo hitzil, and if you don't do that and you shoot him right in the head, neragalav, then you, the one who's trying to save the day, you're going to be liable for the death penalty because you killed another Jew. Now, where does Rabbi Yochanan ben Shol get this from? Mai taima Rabbi Yochanan ben Shol. Dichsiv. So the verse is talking about two people are fighting. So one guy throws a punch, the other guy ducks, and he ends up hitting a lady who's pregnant, and it seems like he kills the fetus. Yeah. So v'chinatzu anashim. Now, the Amr Belazar, the mitzvah shebemisa hakasav. It's all machlokas how to learn this pasuk, but according to Belazar, it's talking about death, meaning someone trying to kill somebody. Now, in the context of that section of the Torah, it says, "Ve'im ason yihya, a tragedy will befall, a calamity will happen." What's going to happen? It's not the nefesh takas nefesh. Then, if you end up killing somebody, then you have to give your soul for the soul that you killed, meaning you're liable to a death penalty. And still, it says, "Va'afilu hachi amar achmana," but if it's velo yason, anosh yanesh. But if you didn't cause a calamity, then you'll surely be punished. So the question is, what is this talking about? So if it's a case where you could have saved the pursuer by knocking out one of his limbs, and and therefore you're not allowed to kill him, so that's the case. That's the case where you're going to be punished. It's the case where you could have saved the guy and you didn't, so that's the case where you are going to be punished. Yeah.
You talk about being the brother and the sister. Is that this whole thing here?
A brother who goes to have relations with a sister, right?
Yeah, okay, so
that's chayiv krisos.
So, is it? I guess the question is it different if it wasn't a sister? If it was
right?
Okay.
Yeah. We said earlier that only someone who's liable for the exact capital punishment or chayiv krisos. But if it was a case like a widow to a Kohen Gadol, it's only a negative prohibition, so then that's not going to go.
I mean, okay, but yeah.
Yeah, not okay, but yeah. So, okay. So, if you're able to save with one of the limbs, and you are still allowed to kill the person, even so, you could knock out his knees, or you could shoot him in the head. Let's say you'd be allowed to just shoot him straight in the head. So then, when this verse is saying that you're going to get punished, what's the case? Right now, you're trying to save a pursuer, and there's some situation where you, who's trying to save the pursuer from killing somebody, you are going to get punished. What could be the case where you get punished when you're trying to save a person? save the pursuee from
Pursuit.
save the pursued from the pursuer. Good. Save the pursued from the pursuer. What's that case? The only case that you, the savior, are going to get punished is if you try to save the pursued by killing the pursuer when you could have knocked out one of his limbs. So that's a proof that if you could save the guy, the pursued, from the pursuer by knocking out one of his limbs and you didn't, then you will get punished. That's going to be the case. So says the Gemara, not so fast. Dilma shiny hacha. Maybe here it's a different example. Why? The misa lazeh v'tashlumin lazeh. Here, the death penalty and the financial penalty that you get don't come for the same person. So meaning, the Reuben tried to punch Shimon. Shimon moved out of the way. He ended up hitting a pregnant lady behind him. So he's liable for the death penalty because he tried to kill Shimon, and he's also liable to get punished and pay for the money that he now caused a loss to the lady who's carrying the fetus. So the reason why you are not exempt from payment is not because the reason why you're liable for payment is or liable for punishment is because since the death was to one person, but which the guy you tried to kill, but it ended up being that you damaged another lady, so therefore you have to pay. One second.
Well, the reason I was asking about the brother and sister, why did it throw that in, the brother and sister, rather than just regular people having intercourse?
Right, because the Gemara in Suva said that one who has relations with a sister ends up paying a fine. He rapes the sister, he pays a fine.
Okay.
But if pursuing your sister to rape her is liable by death or by krisos, but you're considered a pursuer, which means that the death penalty is on you, how are you liable both? The death penalty and a fine.
Okay.
Now we answered, there must be one of these, 5 answers.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So says the Gemara, maybe you don't have a proof from here because this case is unique. It's talking about that you're liable death for one person, but the punishment that you're getting is actually payment for the lady whose fetus you killed. So says the Gemara, no, that doesn't matter. Loshna. Loshna meaning if you're liable for the death penalty, so then it doesn't matter, right? Once you're liable for the death penalty, it doesn't matter whether you damage the person. Let's say, give an example. Reuven is pursuing Shimon to kill him. So Reuven is now liable for death. He's a pursuer. Now, if he goes and damages Shimon's property on the way to kill Shimon, he's not liable to pay. If he goes and damages Levi's property while trying to kill Shimon, he's also not liable to pay. So therefore, when this part of the Torah says that this person, that there's some punishment administered here, it cannot be talking about where it's a punishment of a financial punishment, because this person, the pursuer, is not liable for the financial punishment, no matter if it was to the guy he's pursuing or it was to the lady. Just one second, looking at one thing. Yeah, okay, just to add a quick correction. So, just to get clear, these verses in the Torah are talking about Reuven, let's say Reuven, who goes to try to punch Shimon and kill him. Shoot him, punch him, whatever it is, he wants to kill Shimon. It says, if he succeeds, so then he has to pay for with his life. He's a murderer. Fine. If he doesn't succeed, then he has to pay for the fetuses that he ended up killing. Meaning he punched Shimon, Shimon ducked, and he hit the lady, and the lady was pregnant, and he now has to pay however much it costs for the fetuses, right? So now, what's that case? If he himself is a pursuer, he's liable for the death penalty, right? So how can he pay and be liable to death at the same time. To that, the Gemara said, it must be a case where he's not liable to death penalty. Why not? How's not liable to death penalty? He's trying to kill Shimon, but he's able to be stopped by knocking out one of his limbs. So meaning the onlooker has no right to kill Reuven. He's very easily able to be knocked out by knocking out his knees. Therefore, when Reuven goes to kill Shimon, he doesn't have the status of a pursuer because someone can knock out one of his limbs, and therefore he's liable to pay. That the Gemara thought that maybe there's a difference if you damage someone else's property while being liable to death penalty versus damaging the person you're pursuing's property. So that the Gemara says, no, there's no difference. If you would be liable to death penalty, it doesn't matter whose property you destroy. You're exempt from all the property you destroy because you have a death penalty on you. Since the part of the Torah says that you are liable to pay, it must be you're not a pursuer. You tried to kill Shimon, how are you not a pursuer? It must be because someone could just knock you out with one of your limbs, and therefore they have no right to kill you. If you would be a pursuer that's liable to death penalty, they could kill you. From the fact that they can knock out one of your limbs, so therefore they're not able to kill you. Okay, where do you find this concept that if you're liable for the death penalty, you can go freely destroying people? Not really, but you can destroy people's property and not be liable since you're liable for the death penalty. So, says the Gemara, the Amar Rava. Rodef Shai Rodef, I think we're going to have three cases. Rodef Shai Rodef Achar Chavero. So, Reuven's chasing Shimon to kill him. The Shiber Esakelim, and he breaks vessels. Whose vessels? Bain Shel Nirdaf, whether it's Shimon's vessels, the pursued's vessels, or Bain Shel Kol Adam Pater. There you see it, right? Whether you go and break the person, you go into Shimon's house with a gun to go kill him, and you destroy his house, and then Shimon goes to the neighbor's house, and you go to the neighbor's house, and you destroy the neighbor's house. You're also exempt from paying for those damages. My taima, mischayev b'nafshehu. You have a death penalty on you, and different verses teach us that you can only be liable one and not two penalties at the same, and not two punishments. Okay, that's one. Now that's what we need. Now, once we started this, the nirdaf, let's say the pursued. So Shimon's running for his life, and he ends up breaking people's property. Sheshibra Sakalim, Shel Rodef. Shimon ends up running into Reuven's house to try to hide over there, and he ends up, damaging his stuff, or he takes his Tesla and he destroys it. Shimon is also exempt. However, if Shimon, who's running for his life, damages someone else's property, Shel Kol Adam Chayev. Why? Shel Rodef Pater, he's exempt for paying for the for damaging the pursuer's property. Shelo yeh mamono chaviv alav migufa. We don't want money to be more beloved to him than his own body. So therefore, if you have to break money to save your life, go break money. If that's true, what about every other person? Shel kol adam chayiv. You're still liable. Why? Shematzil atza b'mamon chaveiro. You saved yourself with someone else's money. So for that, you have to pay. You have to pay for that money. So why should you be exempt for that? V'rodef, and now the pursuer, Reuven, shaya rodef acharod. V'rodef, shaya rodef acharodef. So Reuven's chasing Shimon to kill him, and then Levi's coming to go kill Reuven, so that he should not kill Shimon. So Levi now goes. So Rodef shaya rodef acharodef la'atzilo v'shivres hakelim. Levi, who's chasing after Reuven to save Shimon's life, and he ends up breaking vessels. Bain shel rodef, bain shel nirdaf, bain shel kol adam pater. To save someone's life, you can go freely and do whatever you have to do, even at the expense of someone else's property. So why? Because if you don't, it's not logical to not say that. Why? Again, if you don't say that, no one's gonna go and save their friend from being killed, because they're gonna start thinking, well, hold on 1 second.
Before I do it.
Yeah, I can't pay back. I'm about to damage. He runs cost $10 million. I can't afford the damage of this house. So either we can do another campaign, or I have to just kill the guy and not worry about it. Fine. Yeah, right. So now, aval rodef achar behema, another exciting case. The guy is going to run after an animal to sodomization.
I love having it laugh with you.
Charles and Donna, your commentary is being recorded now in public. Be careful. Okay.
Sorry about that. Sharing the funnies.
Tana Rabbi Shimon Yochai Omer Obed Avodos Kochavim. If you go to, so now these are the earlier opinions we had yesterday of the descending views of when you can kill the guy. So our Mishnah said not if you go after idol worship, but Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said even the one who goes to worship idols, nitan lahatilo benaf, you can save him by killing him. Mikal v'chomer, with a kal v'chomer. U'ma pagam hedyu nitan lahatilo benafsho. If someone's going to pursue after a person, which is blemishing the person, defaming the person, him you could kill. Pagam gavoa lo kol shekain. For sure, if you're causing a blemish to Hashem, right, by ditching him, abandoning him for idol worship, for sure you could kill him. Says the Gemara of Chiyonchim and Adin, you cannot punish based off of logic, based off of just logical derivation. So Kasav Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai holds Onshim and Adin, you could. So there's actually behind the scenes here are two opinions: can you or can you not punish using a kal v'chomer? Okay. Tanya Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon's son, Rabbi Lezer says, "Hamachalas Shabbos nitlan tzil benafsho." The guy's about to tie a double knot on Shabbos and keep it there forever. Shoot him in the head. So unless you can't stop him in any other way, then but you probably could. So you should probably do that first. So says the Gemara, he holds like his father. Savarla kavua da amar onshim and adin. He holds like his father who said you could learn out punishment through logic. Sounds like our Mishnah holds not that way, because it doesn't allow you to kill someone if they're doing avodah zarah. But just he holds one step further. The Asya Shabbos, and he learns out the violation of Shabbos from the violation of idol worship. So both Reb Shimon and his son learn you could administer punishment. You could through logic. You could derive the death penalty through logic. Just they argue if you learn out Shabbos from avodah zarah or not. Okay, here begins the very exciting part of the Gemara of what we all know, that you have to give up your life for the big three. This is the source of this in all of the Talmud. All the halachas are based off this, and we're going to have Esther hopefully if we have time. So, Rabbi Yochanan ben Yehotzadok. Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of Hashem ben Yehotzadok, Nimnu v'gamru. They literally, Nimnu is like a count. They tallied, they counted v'gamru and concluded. Meaning they had a whole rabbinic discussion, always in the attic for some reason. Yeah, Balia's base Nidza Belud, in the attic of the house of Nidza in the town of Lud, and they concluded the following conclusion: Kol Aveira Shebetorah, Im Omrin LaAdam Avor VaAlte Hareg. Any Aveira in the Torah, if someone tells you violate the Aveira, so you have to violate it and do not get killed. Someone puts a gun to someone's head and says, do an Aveira for me, or violate Shabbos. And if you don't violate Shabbos, I'm going to kill you. Of course, you violate Shabbos. So if someone tells you that Avor v'al Hareg, if you do the Aveira, I'm not going to kill you, then Yavor v'al Hareg, do it and don't get killed. Except for three, Chutz mi'avodos kochavim v'gilui rayos v'shfichus damim. Except for three things, there are avodos kochavim, idol worship, gilui rayos, illicit relations, and shfichus damim, killing somebody. So.
Yeah, they say with the
which is anybody who's illicit relations to you. Kind of like anybody in Acharemos and Kedushim. Because those are all, it says they're Lo Sigala Servaso.
Yeah, but what happens if somebody that's just completely unrelated?
No, that's not going to be it. A single boy and a single girl, there's 5 opinions about it. Only one of them is going to hold that the kid is a mamzer. According to him, it might be, but we don't hold that way. That I don't know. According to one opinion in Yevamos, that prohibits even a single girl with a single man with a single woman. What would he hold on? Okay, that's a good question. I don't know. Does he hold the status of an erva? Usually, yeah, because a mamzer is dependent on if you're an erva, I believe. But I don't think in halacha we go like that. It's not so clear where the prohibition for a one-time relation with a man and a woman. It's not clear it's biblical. It's definitely prohibited, but it's not clear that it's biblical. Yeah, that's Yevamos 5 opinions, I believe. But yeah. So. Okay, so except for these 3. So says the Gemara, "Avodos kochavim lo." Really, idol worship, you have to give up your life and not worship idols. The Hatanya, Rabbi Shlomi 9. Rabbi Shlomi says, "How do I know Shim Amr lo Adam Avra Avodos kochavim?" Someone tells you you should violate and go serve idols at Alte Hareg, and then I will not kill you. Minayin sheyavod Al Yahareg. According to Rabbi Shmuel, you should worship the idol. The Al Yaharik. Now remember, we didn't get back to this, but just remember that earlier there was a machlokas Abayi and a Rava that if you worship avodah zara out of love of the man or out of fear, it was a machlokas if that's considered avodah zara or not. And I think Rava was one who said it's not considered avodah zara. So it's interesting. So Tosas there asks, so what do you mean? But it says here that you have to give your life for avodah zara.
Yeah.
Most of these are out of fear. So that's interesting. That's an interesting question. Yeah, very nogea to Purim by Purim Haman. They start them out of fear. So okay. So says the Gemara, how do I know this? So says Rabbi Shmuel, Talmud Lomer v'chai b'hem sheyawad v'al yahari. You should serve and not get killed. Famous verse v'chai b'hem lo shamas b'hem. You're supposed to live with the mitzvahs and not get killed through the mitzvahs. They're there for you to live. So that Rabbi Shmuel says that applies even to avodah zara. So we're gonna argue on Rabbi Shmuel, but according to him, that applies even to idol worship. So now yachol afilu b'far hesya. So now there's going to be basically three categories: the big three, or according to Rabbi Shmuel, the big two. There's going to be when it's in public, all the rules change. When you're in a public gathering of 10 men, 10 Jewish men, so then even any avera, you're going to have to give up your life. We're going to see. And the third category is going to be when it's a time of when the non-Jews are making decrees upon us to try to rid us of our Judaism. Those two cases of the big three don't matter anymore. Any avera is going to have to you have to give up your life, and not so that we'll see. So now, yachol afilu b'far hesya, even in public, according to Rabbi Shmuel, you violate idol worship. You don't get killed, even in public. When the public's we're going to see it's going to mean that 10 men, 10 Jewish men. I don't know if it's just men. Maybe 10 Jews. It should be only 10 Jews. It doesn't have to be 10 men, I believe. Talmud Lomar v'lo sechalo Hashem kachi. No, v'nikadashti. That you cannot violate God's name. You have to sanctify God's name. So therefore, in Farhesia, in public, the rules change, and for sure you cannot violate avodah zara in public. You have to give up your life, even according to Rabbi Shmuel, who says that usually you do violate it. Now, in them who concluded in the attic that idol worship is one of the big three. The Omer Kribbelazar, the Tanya Kribbelazar Omer, we say every day, they have to es Hashem l'kach, you have to love Hashem, your God. The Rashi explains that love him means and do not abandon him. Interesting, basic idea of love, and don't abandon it for somebody else, right? So love your God, b'chol levavcha, with all your heart, b'chol nafshcha, with all your soul, b'chol b'yodecha. It's going to mean here with all your money, all your possession. So says the Gemara, im nemer b'chol nafshcha. So if it says you have to love him with all your soul, meaning to give up your life for him, why does it say with all your money? For sure. If you give your life, for sure, you have to give up your cash. So love never b'chol meodecha, im nemer b'chol meodecha, it says with all your possessions, love never b'chol nafshecha. So it says the Gemara like this: Im yeshcha adam, you have a person whose life is more valuable to him than his money, shegufa chaviv lav mimamono. Interesting. Which kind of person is that? No, sorry, that's normal. Sorry, that's normal. But for him, the Torah says, "L'kach nemar b'chol nafshecha." You have to give up your life. Some people have their money is more precious to them than their life. Migufo l'kach nemar b'chol meodecha, to serve Hashem with your money. So therefore, according to Belazar, to love Hashem with all your soul means, and with all your heart means, you have to love Him and not abandon Him for idol worship. So according to Belazar, that's the source that you have to give up your life and not to idol worship, because if you were to idol worship, then you are not loving Hashem with that. Yeah. So to love Hashem with all your soul would be to give up your life, because to give up your life when you're faced with that or idol worship. That would be an example of loving Hashem with all your soul. Yeah. Rashi explained that the love of Hashem has to be more precious to you than the love of everything else. Your body, your money, your desires. His love takes first precedence. Yeah, okay, takes precedence. So, fine. That's all avodas kochavim. That's idol worship. Gilia rayos v'shvichas damim. How do you know illicit relations? How do you know that death to kill somebody is also you have to give your life for? Kiddu Rebbe, like Rebbe, the Tanya Rebbe Omer, Kikasha Yakum Ishal Re'ehu. When one person goes to kill somebody else, v'ratzcho nefesh, kena davar hazeh. So once again, this is the parsha of a guy's coming to rape a young girl, a 12-year-old girl, and in the middle of that parsha, it throws in this idea of a guy killing somebody else. So says the Gemara, "V'chimala manu merotzeach." So why you threw in like someone killing somebody? What do you learn from that? So me'ata hareza bal l'lamed. It's coming to teach you something about nar marasa. V'nim salamat. But you're actually learning from the nar marasa. You're learning from someone raping the young girl. You're learning a halakha from there and applying it to a murderer. Let's see what that is. Makish rotzeach l'nar marasa. The Torah, in one of the 13 ways it derives laws, called the hekish. The two parshas are compared to each other. For what reason? Ma nar marasa, just like the nar marasa, the girl who's in her first stage of marriage, nitan lahatila benafsho. Her, we're going to see where you know that from, but her, you're allowed to kill the pursuer to save her life. Af rotzeach, so too. A rotzeach, a pursuer, you can nitan lahatila benafsho. You can kill the pursuer to save the pursued. Okay. Umakish nar marasa lerotzeach, and we go the other way also. That a nar marasa is compared to a murderer. Ma rotzeach yahareg val yavor. Just like a murderer, you have to give up your life and not murder somebody else. Af nar marasa tehareg val tavor. Also, she has to give up her life and not do the avera of relations with this man. So that's how you know illicit relations. You have to give up your life and not have relations with this individual. Okay. Says the Gemara, but rotzeach gufim, how do you know that a murderer, that if you're asked to murder somebody, you have to give up your life instead. So says the Gemara, the first time it's not going to be a verse. It's going to be logic. Interesting. Svarahu. It's basic logic. Why? And let's bring a story. Dehoda asla coming to Rabbi of Amrle. Someone came to Rabbi and said, Amrli Mari Dure. Mari Dure was some kind of non-Jewish ruler that said the following: Dil katle le planya, go kill planya, that guy. The ilo katlin Allah. Right? I mean, classic Holocaust stories, right? that came up. You go kill someone else. If not, I'm going to kill you. So Amrle told him, so l'kluch below tiktel. It's to kill me and don't kill him. Why? So here's a somewhat well-known line. Mi yemar, you the person who's asked to kill somebody else. So in your head you think like this, or the Torah tells you to think like this. Mi yemar dedama didach sumak tve. Who says his blood is redder than your blood? Dilma dama deho gavra sumak tve. Sorry, who says your blood is more beloved to Hashem, is more red, so to speak, meaning you have more life, you deserve to live more than that guy. You're both, Rashi explains, you're both beloved to Hashem, and every life is beloved to Hashem. And who are you to take his life for your life? Who says your life is more beloved than his life? So you have no right to make that act and go kill somebody, thinking that, well, my life is more beloved to him. Nope. So Rashi explains that the whole rationale of living through the mitzvahs and not dying, because Hashem loves every Jew. But when it comes to two Jews now, how are you to decide who he loves more? You can't do that. Therefore, you have to give up your life. Okay. Now, all of these big three, it's only when the kingdom did not decree all these decrees to get the Jews to stop doing mitzvahs. Aval b'shas gzeirus hamalchus, when they decreed to get us off and throw away our Judaism. Afilu mitzvah kala. We're going to see this. It's going to be very extreme. Afilu mitzvah kala. Even the most minor of mitzvahs, you're obligated to give up your life and not do that and not be over that mitzvah. He also Rabbi Amar Rabbi Yochanan afilu shelo b'shas zeir samachos. Even when there's tranquility, there's no kingdom making decrees upon us. Lo amru ela b'tzina. To violate the big three is in private. Aval befar hesed, we're going to see it means 10 Jews. Afilu mitzvah kala yahar gal yavar. Then also, even the smallest of mitzvahs, you have to violate. You have to give up your life for. So you have the big three, that's in private. You have a time where there's decrees upon us to get us to throw away our Judaism, and then you have in public. So like, what's a mitzvah kala? I mean, what's how you decide? In Pirkei Avos it says that you never treat any mitzvah like strict or lenient, right? So what's my mitzvah kala? So Amar Rava bar Rav Yitzchak, Amar Rav, Afilu, Lishniya Arkasa de Mesana. So amazing thing, your shoelaces, yeah? The ways of the non-Jews was to tie their shoelaces one way. The ways of the Jews was to tie it a different way. And then the non-Jews told you that you can't tie it that way anymore. So even that, you're not allowed to tie it in the non-Jew's way. You have to give up your life. Now, this is not even a mitzvah. This is like a minhag. This is like things that we just ended up doing. So Rashi says, why? Because it's going down a very slippery slope. Once you start listening to the idol worshippers, they're trying to soften up your hearts. Once you give up your the way you tie your shoes and tie like them, the next thing's going to be you're going to give up your mitzvahs and go like them. So if that's in public, you have to give up your life for that. Even the changing of the tying of your shoes, you have to give up your life, make a kiddush Hashem and not a chil Hashem. Okay, the kama farhesia, how much is considered a public gathering? Amr Rav Yaakov, Amr Rabbi Yochanan, ein farhesia pechusa me'asar b'nei adam. Farhesia is no less than 10 people. So, okay, 10 people. Not yet. Not fewer than 10 is not public. More than 10 is public. I think I know. My question is, it's including the guy or not including the guy? It's him and 9 others or him and 10 others? Are you one of the 10 people that you're sanctifying God's name in front of?
Actually,
or you have to have 10 onlookers to you? That I'm not sure.
Talk about, because 10 people actually observe.
The 10 observers, okay.
Even question that. The sin is considered.
Oh, very good. Meaning not even observe, you have to know about it, even knowing about it. Okay, good.
Know about it, yeah.
Even know about it, okay. So now we're gonna see. We're gonna ask by Esther in a second. Okay. Pshita Yisraelim Ba'ina, and of course you need 10 Jews. Dichsiv B'nikadashti B'soch B'nei Yisrael. To sanctify God's name, B'soch B'nei Yisrael, in the midst of who? B'nei Yisrael, the Jewish people. Bayer B'yirmiyah Tisha Yisrael B'nachri Echad. Now, interesting question. You have nine Jews and 1 non-Jew. So does that count as a farhesa? You have 10 people, 10 onlookers, if only 9 are Jewish. So Tashma, I'll show you that it's not true. You need 10 Jews. The Tani Rav Yanai Achvad Rav Chia Bar Abba, Rav Yanai, the brother of Rav Chia Bar Abba, Asya Toch Toch. We're going to learn a Gzeir Shar from the word Toch Toch. Interesting source from the Meraglim, the spies. How many of them? So Ksiv Hacha B'nikdashti B'soch B'nei Yisrael, to sanctify God's name in the midst of the Jewish people. Uksiv Hasam, it says over there, separate yourself mitocha eda, right? The 2 good ones. Separate yourself from the 10 spies that came out with Lashon Hara. So what do you see there? Mitocha eda. Hazos, Malahalon, just like over there, it's referring to 10 people. The Kul Hu Yisrael, and all those 10 spies were Jews. Afghan, Asar, Kul Hu Yisrael. So to here it's 10 Jews, and they're all going to be 10 people, and it's all going to be Jews. Oh, famous question. What's with Esther? Esther Farhesia Havai. Esther. So this is an example where it's a proof that it's 10 people that knew, not 10 people that saw. Right? Esther went in Dachashverosh. I don't understand. It's one of the big 3. It's one of the big 3. You have to give up your life. You're not have a illicit relationship with somebody. So Esther Farhesia Havai. Very famous halachas come out of this. These long toasts comes up in 1 or 2 other places. Maybe by non-Jew things are different. It's very, very interesting. Either way, the Gemara at least says 2 opinions. Amar Abaye Esther Karka Olam Haisa. So it's an interesting concept that at the end of the day, the woman is passive in her illicit relations. Meaning Esther was passive. She didn't do anything active. Now, we could argue she went into the palace. Yeah, good question. That question comes, I think, in another place. She went into the palace, but the actual relations, she was passive. There's no benefit, nothing that she did that was active about it. So, it's just interesting because before we said, rather than a guy raping you, having relations with you, you have to give up your life. There, you're also passive. So that's interesting. What's the difference between Esther?
Well, there you're trying to fight the person off.
You're going to be passive, and Esther totally passive. Yeah. When you fight, you're not passive. Yeah. Okay.
When you fight, you're not passive.
Maybe when you give it. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Okay. So this is these long posts about this. Yeah. So there's between a Jew versus a non-Jew. Could be there's a big difference. Yeah. Okay. Rava Amar Hanas Atzman Shiny. Rava says no. When the non-Jew's coming, when the person's coming for his own benefit and not trying to get you to throw off your Judaism, so that's not going to be liable in giving up your life. It's very interesting. Only when he's trying to get you to give up your Judaism, then we say you have to give up your life. But even in a case, it sounds like this of relations. So there you have to there. Rava says that when a non-Jew does this, then it's for his own benefit. Achashverosh was for his own benefit. Now it's also interesting because is a non-Jew to a Jewish girl one of the arayos, one of those illicit relations,
Yeah.
I don't think so. It's not so clear where the sources for that is. Definitely prohibited, but I don't know if you're called an erva. So there's like a lot of details that have to be worked out exactly when it's coming to a non-Jew versus a Jew versus someone who is your illicit relation versus somebody else. Either way, it says Rava, I'll prove to you that when they're doing it for their own benefit, you do not have to give up your life. The ilote mahachi, if you don't say that, and you say that even for their own benefit, you do have to give up your life. So hachi honey, I'm going to pronounce this exactly. Kvaki v'dimuniki. There were these certain vessels where basically the non-Jews had a holiday where it was their holiday and they needed to heat up to heat up their houses of worship. And they went and they took vessels from everybody, including the Jews. And the Jews gave their vessels to them. The question is, you can't help them do avodah zarah. You can't give up your vessels to have them do avodah zarah. So how are they able to give up their vessels for the non-Jews' idol worship holiday? So, how do the Jews give up these vessels that they're going to use to heat up their coals with when they're using it for idol worship? You have to say is they weren't using the heat for it happened to be it was their idol worship holiday, but at the end of the day they just wanted heat to heat themselves up. So it was for their own benefit. They weren't serving the heat. They weren't serving the coals as idol worship. They're using it for their own benefit, and so therefore that it was permissible. So too, according to Rava, remember Rabbi argues, but according to Rava, when it comes to Achashverosh, it was for his own benefit, and therefore it wasn't trying to get Esther to throw off her Judaism. Could be right. He didn't know that she was Jewish, so therefore that would be allowed. Now Rava goes according to his reasoning in another place. The Oz the Rava Latame, the Amar Rava Akum. Oh, we should talk soon. Okay. Oh, there's a period coming up. Okay. The Amar Rava Akum the Amar Leila Hayisol Katel Asasa B'Shabasa V'Shadu L'Chiyusa the Lo Katilalach. A non-Jew asks you, why don't you go take off some grass from the ground on Shabbos and throw it to the animals, and if not, I'm going to kill you. So the halacha is Rava says Lichtel. Go violate Shabbos, one of the prohibitions. You can't take something off the ground, and don't get killed. However, Shadi L'Nahara, but if he asks you to take off that piece of grass and throw it to the river, then lichtel lo lichtel. Then you give up your life and you don't violate that aver ma'itaima lavuri milsa kabai. When he wants you to throw it to his animals, it's for his own benefit. For his own benefit, you have no right to give up your life. To throw it to the river was trying to get you to violate Shabbos and throw off your Shabbos. For that, you have to give up your life.